Namaste and welcome to Enlightened Masculinity. I'm Yogi Chris, PhD, founder of Method Yoga, and also AKA Pimpin' Yogi. And so we have a new microphone. Hopefully it's coming through crystal clear. Live audience here on Zoom and Instagram and Facebook. And if you're catching this recording, then leave a review. Welcome to the show. If this is your first episode, Enlightened Masculinity is like the red pill of human mating, sex psychology, and a lot of other red pills. Just, I was explaining the red pill to my mom actually today. Because I said blue pill, and very few people ever use the word blue pill. And I actually didn't finish making my point with her because I ended up having to educate her about what red pill is. Red pill, blue pill. I explained it so great. I'm not going to be able to repeat like profundity, how profound it was. But, the red pill is the truth. The blue pill is the matrix. And, how people get swept up in the matrix is like this whole Ukraine war, which obviously is not what they say it is. As soon as you hear Pedo Joe saying, watch, I'm about to get hacked right now. As soon as you hear Pedo Joe saying, and Putin is completely responsible for whatever happens, that's how you know he's responsible for whatever happens. Oh, the video stopped. That's so lame. On Instagram, come on, reception. All right, let's turn Wi-Fi. Give it a quick title. And then this particular episode is called Self-Control and Self-Love. And maybe I should split that into two episodes, really. It is just going to be like a quick perspective. Zoom link in the bio. Good. Instagram gets to see me twice. And now it's not choppy, so it was the Wi-Fi. Stabilize. Stay there. Okay. Stay there. There. Okay, good. And self-love came to me as an idea first. And, I saw it so clearly today, talking on the phone with someone, and I was talking about, and I got to the idea of self-love and how much of it, this admiration that we have for other people, is definitely something that we would want for ourselves, that we might find possible for ourselves. There's some element of what we're admiring. It may not be like I don't think I admire someone for being like 8 feet tall or 7 feet tall or whatever, like a giant. But, the ability to slam dunk a basketball or, I don't know, do some physical feat. There's something I admire that I see potential in myself to do something great like that. And it's not because if I saw an alien do something incredible, there would still be an inkling of admiration in me, but that's because I believe that it would be technological. It wouldn't be magic. It would be through understanding physics that we don't understand, but that we probably are capable of understanding some of it, at least. And we might need bigger brains to really get it. But if it's science, like I admire it, and I've like, and that's why I don't really admire magic, actually. But, of course, a real magician, you get in there, someone that's making effects, he would tell you that it is science, that magic and sorcery, there's a science here, there's a scientific method, there's reproducibility, there's falsifiability, there's hypotheses, and, experimentation. So I have a hypothesis. Here we go. It's a hypothesis that and admiration doesn't always come in the form of like blatantly saying I admire such and such, so and so on. What's up, Phoenix? But it is definitely a feeling felt. It is a behavior that one might not be super aware of, but that they're pointing their admiration towards someone or something or someone really, and they're giving them attention. And so whatever it is that you're seeing about the person, there's something there that you would want for yourself, and that you see there's something you believe it's possible for yourself too. And point that love. Admiration might not be love. We might not think of it as love, but like I had this dope video that I'm going to post on Instagram. I grabbed it from Phoenix's actually Instagram, and it's like this gray, black and white cartoon of everybody staring at their cell phones and all the kind of messed up, social kind of ramifications or consequences of our culture that uses iPhones and Instagram and everything. And the depiction of it is kind of gloomy, but it's very entertaining. And what point was I making right there? Self-love. Admiration. So there is a kind of, you've maybe heard some ideas similar to like, you know, we worship like social media, we worship cell phones, we worship the television, we worship Hollywood. Like we don't act like nobody, very few people, if anybody, is really thinking they're going to church when they go to the movie theater, or they're going like whatever a classical meaning of that word of worship. Nobody thinks they're worshiping such and such. But unless they're going to a church or a synagogue or a fucking mosque or some temple, or they're doing some ritualistic thing. Like there's things that are called worship, and then there's these other things that are so habitual, they're so ritualized. How I know how I use Instagram or whatever, but I don't think I'm worshiping Instagram. I think I worship my life. I think I'm more aware of what I'm doing. Doesn't mean I'm fully aware. Obviously, I'm not. Why I say obvious is because I think I'd probably be doing some pretty cool shit. Zotes is there. Zotes is a sorcerer. He knows you get city when you enlighten them. So when you get enlightened, you're able to do things. At least that's how the stories go. Like I just lit a fire, like I had a lighter, and I have like the power of fire, or whatever. That might be a long-term thing. There might be smaller manifestations of that. Like I get really hot hands. I can make my hands hot and give like a massage with that. Or I can look at someone and make heat manifest in them or something. So, or even think about someone. So we are ritualistically kind of worshiping, tech and, the distractions of the culture and everything. And that's a kind of love, that's the kind of love for the creator in that classical biblical sense or whatever. But that's really being pointed at, manifested creation, what people have created, and we end up worshiping our own creations. And worse, we aren't worshiping our own personal individual creations. We're worshiping the creations of other individuals. So we end up getting fully distracted off of our lives. This is like what sports do. It's very obvious with sports. I get it. Like growing up, I learned sports and it has benefits. It has consequences too, but it has benefits. But at some point, you graduate past the sport in life, because the sport is pretty small in scope, like what contribution it gives to like humanity and evolution of like as a galactic species, as a species in the universe. Like I don't know what sports is really doing for us. There's a little bit, I guess. But it's a big distraction off our own lives. Once you're like a 50-year-old or a 40-year-old and you're getting drunk on 49er game weekends and losing your, what are you doing with yourself? And that goes with very little explanation. Like you don't need to hear that. You've probably heard that many times before, but yet how much are we doing that in our own lives to a smaller extent on a various array of things? Or are we more aware? Like, am I binging on Cobra Kai because I know it's entertaining, but am I learning? Am I seeing myself in these characters? Is it expanding me? When it stops expanding me, I let it go. Or Marco Polo or whatever. So self-love is, very ambiguous term because first of all, who is the self? If you really ask that question seriously to anybody that's ever really seriously asked that question, they'll tell you something like the self doesn't exist. The self is a non-entity. There is no self. We just talk about it as soon as it's like your thumb. Your thumb is a finger until you're talking about it. So your self is the real you until you're talking about it, and then it's not the real you. Then we're just talking about your identity. But we get it, the self in you. I don't know if we get it, but I get it. I think I get it. That's probably why I'm still in confusion, not fully realized, because I think I get it, but I don't. Like my teacher once said, it was like, but I think he was quoting somebody else. I might have been quoting L. Ron Hubbard. I don't know. But it was something like, people's biggest problem is that they think they're right. So self-love, and then love, of course, has so many different definitions. There's no like agreed upon. I don't know what agreed upon definition is, but so self-love is going to be this and I think I related it in my meditation, and why I brought this title to this show today was because of the other half of the title, which is self-control. Amazing how this came to my awareness, to my eyes, really. And speaking of the eyes, and this is related, this is exactly what the concept is. The eyes is the part of the central nervous system. The central nervous system is different than the peripheral nervous system that goes into the body. It's the motor neurons and the sense neurons in the arms and legs and skin and everywhere. And then there's another nervous system for like the digestive organ. But the central nervous system, the spinal cord, the brain, and the eyes. The eyes are part of the central nervous system. I won't say that they're part of the brain, or I won't say that they're the brain, but next to the spinal cord, that's the next biggest nerve in the body is eyeball A and eyeball B. And they go right to the back of the brain, right through the brain. The brain has accommodated the eyes so much that they extruded from it forward out of the skull or whatever, probably evolved before there was a skull, and then evolved backwards these root nerves back into, or however it happened. And it just like grew out of the brain over eons, supposedly multiple times, by the way. And then there was mass extinctions, it died, there were no more eyeball creatures, and then evolved back after another 100 million years or so. You know, you got to have a real big simulation brain, a mind, to be able to really see that. But supposedly, if that's how it happened, self-control, I think for me, is one of the first things that is controlled is the eyes. And such a big control back into the brain, into the whole central nervous system, that the eyes give you a portal backwards into yourself by just easing your eyes, relaxing your eyes, not straining your eyes, seeing your eyes forward. Look out your eyes, look out the windows of your eyes into your environment. You are here. Don't look at your mind, look at your environment. Eyes can tap, you can tap in. And one of the biggest ways to relax, which is related to self-love, this is how I related it to, because I cover my eyes a lot if there's light out when I want to relax, when I do shavasana or meditation, not with pressure, not a tight band, just like something covering the eyes, because it's much easier to relax, you might imagine, now that you are aware that the eyes go right into the central nervous system. They are the central nervous system. So when you can shade them from sensation, the whole system relaxes more. And when you relax more, you really start to see and hear what's going on in this noggin. And I think this is going to get into some strange ideas. I don't know if there's any questions or comments, you can write them out or raise your hand that you want to talk. I'll go a few more minutes and just wrap up with this idea. This is almost like a lecture. I don't know if this is helpful. I saw these nodding, so maybe there's some stuff there. Like, share, review, all that on the show on Apple or Spotify. Okay, so this last idea, as I relax, I see my mind, and eventually, and it can be turbulent. There can be a lot going on, thinking, a lot of movies, and almost distracting, disturbing, agitating even. We're restless. You don't even want to sit there. Like, fuck this. Sometimes it's too much. Like if I'm in the middle of a fight with someone or something, I can't just sit down and meditate. Like, so under normal circumstances, or let's say you do a little bit of yoga, stretch it out. It's better than other exercise because I've noticed that other exercise, I'm very stimulated. It takes me like 10 minutes just for my spine to relax so that I can really sink deeper into my subconscious. There seems to be this relationship between like body tension and how deep in my mind I am aware. And, but yoga is all stretching the spine, elongating, twisting, like helping it loosen and get nourished. And then sitting is very, pretty much spine neutral, neutral on the spine. So let's say you do some yoga stretches, whatever, and you lay in shavasana. So you kind of get rid of that initial wave of thoughts because you lay down and relax for like however 5-10 minutes. And so most of the flustered thoughts are gone. Or a lot of them, let's say you get over it, there'll be waves where you'll come with waves of thought will hit you. First, it's hard to discern them. You don't see them as individual thoughts. You see them as just like fucking lot of thinking, like a monkey mind or something. And as you get better, as you, let's say, did some yoga stretches and laid in Shavasana, relaxed a little bit, and then you sat up and meditated, you would notice some space between thoughts. And you would start to notice individual thoughts that, like, you go from a state of kind of not really spaced out, but just almost spaced in. It's like there's a lot of space inside where you have like pause. And you don't notice that you're in pause until a thought pops up and it disturbs your pause. And you're like, oh, fuck, I was really, and then you try to, like, maybe you let go, or maybe you get caught up in the thought and you start thinking whatever it is about, and you're thinking about it, and then you remember, and then you notice your body was like tensing up to the thought, and so you like fuck that thought, and you come back to like relax, and then another thought, and you practice observing, letting it flow. Start to notice that the thought has some tension relationship. So when the thought goes, if you let go of it, there's tension let go. Or sometimes in reverse, you can through like motor neurons, let's say, through coordination with the body, you can relax the body and let go of the thought. They're related. The mind body is related. And there's good feeling, a lot of good, just a good, clean, strong vibration. It's not like music vibrating. It's like a quality of emotional beingness. You could call it content. You could call it bliss. You could call it present or presence. It's definitely something good, joy. And it might be in small dose, but it's almost like if you find like a natural fruit or something in the wild, and so you eat it, and it's sugar, but it's not as sweet as like, you know, highly manufactured fruits that are like way overloaded with sugar. But it has some natural sweetness that it's in that direction. It's like that goodness. It's that's what might be that pause in meditation when you stop thinking. And you get like this kind of dosage of goodness. And the longer you have pauses, which doesn't come about by necessarily will, the will itself is a thought. To will something is a thought. So when you try to will yourself into not thinking, it doesn't work. You have to relax and practice separating from the mind, which is an internal unsticking. And that's what I'm saying about like the football games have you distracted, the occupation has you distracted, the narrative of your life has you distracted, and you're stuck to this thing you're worshiping, which is your ego and your story of how it should be and what it means to you, and you're worshiping that. And when you unstick from that, then I think there's really some self-love. Self-love is an appreciation of your story, which comes not from resenting it or from a being involved in it too much. There must always be this separation because it is false. It is fake. You are not that different from your ancestors 2,000 years ago that lived in the jungle. And yet your life is entirely in existence in your head about some constructs, about some fucking job, life, livelihood, education, future, bills, plans this weekend, fashion, everything. Maybe a relationship that is probably far from natural, unless you're my girls or my guys' girls. Actually, everybody here, but I talk as if there's going to be discovery on the podcast apps of this episode, which I think there will be. Self-control and self-love should probably get some search results. Hopefully, probably nobody searches for self-control. I don't know, maybe. I know some people who need it. All right, self-control and self-love. So we have positive comments. People like the show, positive reactions. Self-love and self-control. So the control comes from noticing my senses are getting too wrapped up in things that are not my beingness. They're not really me. They're like all the fake things, all the temporary, this story, which is just so infinitesimal. It's so small. Your story on the face of Earth and humanity and the history of humanity, who knows how long humanity will last, but maybe forever. And your story is so narrow. And yet it means the world to you. But you may let it go by, not valuing it as much as you do tomorrow, as much as you will in 2 days or 3 days. Let it be that every day you value your life more. And yet, remember, why aren't you valuing it that much right now? Just go to the maximum, self-love. And so any moment that takes away from that, you got to measure if it takes away from that. And not resist. This is, I have book recommendations and things in my groups, but don't resist. And this takes awareness and an ability to confront the situation. You assimilate, you absorb, you receive the experience and handle it. Learning how to handle is also, it's a two-sided sword that everybody is very dull on. Everybody is very dull on handling their life, and everybody's very dull at not resisting the things that are not within their control, which is, moods that come up and, situations that, which is related to moods. You get moods about situations that are out of your control, and handling your environment, which is communication. But that's what you got to sharpen. And that's the double-edged sword that's just like that you can cut through life. If you can separate what's in your control with what's not and surrender to that and handle your environment, wherever your environment is, or if you change environments through life or whatever, just the ability to handle, skill of communications. And those two things are very related, obviously, ability to handle myself and the ability to communicate. So that's going to be the fucking magic wand that the yin and yang to get you whatever you want. And I could go on and on about that, but this is the end of the podcast show. So we'll see you next time. When is the next show? Most likely Sunday. Right now I'm doing Fridays and Sundays. So if you want to know and keep up with when the show is, then join my Telegram group. Hit me up about that. All the links are in the description for this recording, the Genius link. So click that and find me everywhere. All right. And we're starting the Midnight Hunt tonight. And this is important. I'll say this other thing. I really wanted to say this earlier, actually. T psych Zothis, that's time constraint. Okay. So one of the things that I practice on going out and socializing is, you might not believe me. I think the guys would believe me. I don't know who's watching the recording, and Instagram or Phoebe's, whatever, they don't commit. They just stay on Instagram. But the world is it rejects a lot of our communication. And it's because of various reasons. They're wounded, and we have jaded communication too. We may not be communicating in a way that gets received the way we want to be received. And that's within our control. And then there's the part that they perceive it in weird ways. Maybe they warp it, or they're thinking about something else. They're in their head. They're way worse than any of you listening to this. Even if this is your first podcast, the whole rest of the world is, except for people that practice this stuff, would be worse than your level of awareness. You're more aware now. And another way of saying what I'm saying is that the world kind of rejects our communication. We get rejected by guys and girls, by professionals and casuals, and old and young. And the older, usually, the more rejecting they are. They're more I don't want to say wounded. They're like made callous by the world. They're I don't want to say miserable, but like they're resentful. Resent goes up. Everybody was duped. Our grandparents were duped. Our great grandparents were duped. Our parents were duped. And we're becoming unduped. This is the red pill. So they are not satisfied or happy with what they created for themselves. And they're struggling. And they may be doing more or less good, and good for them. We'll do even better, because we're supposed to way outdo our parents. We're supposed to way outdo our parents in everything that we want. We can do everything that's within reason. And I think the Rubik's Cube of life, the multi-billion dimensional Rubik's Cube of this reality, speaking Zoti's language, in the complex crossword puzzle of this life, there is a solution to whatever you want. Somehow, from here to there, there's the right combination of movements, of thoughts, of speeches, of originations, of creations, of, and you just tap in and you stay persistent because, this is the kind of language that also talks about like multiple lifetimes, whatever. And, is it worth the evolution if you don't quite get there? Is it worth getting closer? It's a gloomy thing, but I think it is because when you find, maybe it prioritizes what you're doing, and maybe you find that you don't want to do that because it's not worth it. So that's good, I think. It'll bring a deeper fulfillment because I think that's where the older generation, they fucked up, is they didn't have the spiritual wisdom, and the ones that did, they got it most likely through like some weird hippie kind of channels that skewed their perceptions and made them, a little warped or whatever. But so the world is rejecting of our communication and learning to not resist and to love yourself in the rejection. And then, the science of communication, not separate from them. Not love yourself by just like avoiding them, but like it's whatever, because it's not just them and their physical presence. What they say to you, you hear it and you carry it with you, they're still with you. If you're right next to them and they're talking to you and you're not even listening, they're not with you. So it's not proximity that they're with you or not. It's, are they with you in your mind? Because then your body feels what your mind is feeling, and then they're as intimate as ever. That's as intimate as can be. Whoa. So the world and the people in it, as you go through it, at least, and I can talk better on my experience as a guy, and I can talk about, the experience of, what I'm aware of for women or whatever. But there'll be so many instances of like diminishing or internally reacting, of accepting how people talk to you, what they say about you, and it changes how you see yourself, how you feel about yourself. And you may not want to admit it, but I gotta believe that if you're listening to me now, as much as I've been talking and streaming, and if you're still showing up, and if you're listening, it happens to me, and I'll bet I'm better at it. So I'm pretty sure it happens to you. So that's the practice. Social, especially, that's why it's difficult if you're a lone wolf or a lone wolfess or whatever a fucking female wolf is. Wolf. Isn't it funny that wolf is called wolf, but then it's almost similar to like woof, woof, like a dog. So it's like woof, 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 woof. Oh, you ever think maybe that's why they called it a wolf? I don't know. I just thought of it. So it's difficult as a lone wolf because rejection from the environment means, in tribal days, danger. So, but if you're with your pack, that means safety. They don't reject you. Hopefully you're not with a pack that's rejecting. That breaks the pack. But there also needs to be corrections. So there's hierarchy. This is a whole other talk. But those practices of socializing, especially game and pickup, where guys are talking with girls, because there's something genetic in a guy that he will allow himself to change temporarily just to have sex with the girl. And he may or may not be aware of it. And the way that the social scientist would describe it would be that he dupes her, basically. He's actually duping her of how committed he is. He's pretending a level of commitment to solicit that sex. That's what it looks like from an alien perspective, from a macroscopic perspective, looking at how men and women act. He's not being nice because he's nice. He's being nice because he's changing his behavior to feign or fake or, mimic a certain behavior that has time tested, made the pants drop a little bit sooner than if he didn't. But what he doesn't know is that if he had really good game, then he could get it actually a lot faster. But at the top level, really good game, you become known in this thing. And so people, your reputation, people say things about you. And of course, most of them are fucking mind fucked, but you got to have a response to everything. You got to be able to stand on firm ground of your decisions and how you are and your evolution and why. Your whys, so that it makes sense, because the universe's eyes are watching always. The universe is watching through you, on you, like everything. Even inanimate objects have eyes, but let's just say the living creatures and the other people around you, they have eyes and they experience and witness you. And you have eyes and you have an internal eye and you witness and experience you also. The divine is experiencing you through your living, and your life needs to make sense in your decisions. And if you come from weak place, if you come from resentful place or low vibe, anything negative, you might be surprised, but it is jading your logic a little bit. It's practically impossible for your attitude not to influence your reasoning and how you're thinking about a situation. Even if you're beyond blissful good, that's going to influence things too. So clear-sightedness, clear-headedness, a content pause presence, and then being able to spell it out from A to Z so it makes sense. And if it doesn't make sense, then there's emotions in there. And that makes it make sense, right? So it's like throwing a Joker card. You're playing and it's like, Joker, that's an ace. Or Joker, that's a jack. Like, oh, that makes sense. But if you just throw the Joker down, it's like, what is that? Doesn't make sense. That's an emotion. So character development happens, as we call it, in field, because it's a genetic response that guys will change. But when you're around your other guys, there's a reputation. When you go to the same venues, there's a reputation. You might see the same people again. And if you have any self-awareness, a self-awareness practice like meditation, whatever, you're going to reflect on it, because you're, as a guy, I don't think, because I'm a good person, and I think a lot of the guys are good people, all of them. I think most of humanity is probably good. But there's, you can be made to do bad things and convinced that it's the right thing. Like I said, people's biggest problem is they think they're right. And if you compromise your character or your values or your personal self-identity, if you don't act the way that you would want to have acted, if you were watching yourself in a movie, or if you were writing about how you wanted to act, your ideal way of doing it, or there's so many, I'm trying to say it in so many different ways. When you act out of your higher self, that's another way of saying it, where there's like, you may not be aware of it in the moment when that's happening, when you're acting out of character, but you feel it as negative. You don't like how you acted. In every situation that you don't like it afterwards, it's because you don't like how you responded. It wasn't up to your standard of how you want to be. And so part of our character practice is, testing in field with real people in real situations that do not require the person to be there, that you have to win over. You're influencing the genetics of another person through the laws of attraction, not a law of attraction like fucking Abraham Hicks or whatever, but the laws of genetic attraction. And I tell you what, if you don't understand the laws of genetic attraction, then your law of attraction is going to be so dissociated from physical reality. You're going to be trying to be a fifth dimensional alien being or whatever without any grip on third dimensional living. You're going to be trying to like sail the sailboat from like underneath in the fucking under, I don't know ships. You'll be trying to like fly the airplane from the bathroom. Get it? Like, doesn't, I mean, whatever. And it doesn't mean you won't manifest things, but what I'm saying is that everybody can do what they want, whatever. Do what they want. I'm not interested in that stuff until you get third dimensional stuff, and then that fourth dimensional and I don't even want to start this talk. This is gonna fuck with everybody said. All right, so that's the I was just throwing that out there, self-love. It's a practice. When I diminish, when something rejects me, like you say a joke and nobody laughs, love yourself. Meant to be funny, love yourself. If you trip, or if you drop a drink, or somebody disses your outfit or whatever. She walks away. I don't know, anything. What can you love or admire? And it can be just your awareness to be able to be present. Like, don't diminish. It's a practice. We practice these things and we get stronger psychologically, emotionally, we evolve because most of the world are getting separated, even since the masks and even before, like the whole generation, like worshiping the phones and everything, became separated. And it's a very enriching practice. I have so much more to say on this, really, but we're going to the gathering. So if you're not signed up for the gathering, I know Zotis is, Powerhouse is, Jaime is, and I believe Miracle J is too. So that's dope. Everybody else that watches this recording, you want to get the alien tech, I think you do. Go to imcbase1.com and that's what we'll be doing tonight. Everybody on Instagram, it was nice having you. And I'll see you next time. Okay? Post.